Hey everybody, what's going on? In this video, we're going to do a rooting shootout between Azos and Clonex. And if you're not familiar, Clonex is a popular rooting gel. Just uses the standard indole 3-butyric acid rooting hormone. And Azos actually triggers the plant apparently to produce its own rooting hormone or more of it. It's a bacteria, so it also is a nitrogen fixing bacteria, but it doesn't fix nitrogen for all plants, just the ones that it's like an inoculant for ones that are already in that nitrogen fixing group, like the Fabaceae family and things like peas and stuff like that. So I'm not really interested in the nitrogen fixing, but it's a powder and you could use it to root cuttings. It says right on there for rooting cuttings. So they work in very different ways, and so I'm going to try out and see which one works best. And of course I'm going to do a control and then measure which one has the highest success rate and which one has the most root growth, that sort of thing. Okay, so this is the plant that we're going to be working with. It's called Nanking Cherry or Prunus tomentosa. It's called tomentosa because it has kind of fuzzier underleaf. Usually when plants are called tomentosa, they have that feature to them. Anyway, it's Nanking Cherry. It produces edible berries. It's a good plant, really hardy, really tolerant of drought and water, whatever you throw at it. And so it actually roots pretty readily from cuttings already. I did an experiment last year. I'll link the video in where it was one of the few plants that actually just rooted when I just stuck it into the earth. The following spring, it had roots on it, while most of the other plants I tried did not. I did use the Clonex on the experiment last year, so I know the process works, a little bit, but what I want to find out is how it works compared to the Azos. So we're going to go ahead and take a bunch of cuttings and start the trial. Took the cuttings, they're about, 8 inches long. There is a wide variety of diameters ranging from, 1/8 inch to 1/16 inch. And so, they're probably going to have slightly different rooting characteristics depending on if they're like totally hardwood or semi-hardwood. But for the most part, I tried to get them as even as possible, and I think they are fairly uniform. And so I'm going to separate these out into a control group with no rooting hormone, one with the Clonex and one with the Azos as well. So we're actually in early to mid-fall here in October, but it's still really warm out. So we're going to go ahead and put these in the ground the next day or so, and they'll have a good month to 2 months of rooting until it starts getting really cold and the rooting will slow, and then it'll pick back up in the springtime. And then after that, we'll go ahead and check on the progress. One thing to note too, though, is that with and I suppose I could do it with both, but Azos does say that you can apply this as onto the cuttings when you put them into the medium or into the soil, and then you can also water it in to improve rooting weeks later, months later, which I might do. Unfortunately, Clonex doesn't have that opportunity, so I'll kind of if I do that, then the experiment will be a little bit different because I'll be reapplying the material in the springtime on one of them, but not on the other one. So I'll try to keep it even. I'm going to look into if that's even something that you can do with the rooting gel. My suspicion is that you can't. You can't water it in. You just need to apply it directly to the wood. So I probably will keep it just applied one time and no sort of watering in later on. But that could also help improve your odds if you're trying to use one of these products. Okay, so I just made this little makeshift propagation bed, just dug into the earth about 6 inches down. We have really good soil here, so it's not going to be a soilless media, of course, but I added a ton of perlite. I try to make it as even as possible because, of course, if there's patches of lots of perlite and patches of hard compacted soil, that will totally change the outcome of the trial. So what I'm going to do is probably alternate rows, Azos, Clonex control, Azos, Clonex control, and the reason for that is because the soil conditions might be a gradient from like really loose or fertile or something to not so much on the other end, or vice versa. The light conditions could be more sunnier here, less sunny there. So if I have everything in one patch, the results might be a result of something else besides the product. So I'm gonna try to alternate to control for that. That's pretty much it. It's usually recommended to root in like a soilless media, like just perlite, but that's not what I have here. And it worked fine last year for rooting Nanking, so we're gonna try again this year and see. And so I think probably the control will root okay, and then the two others will have a lot more roots on them. There's only like, you know, an 1/8 inch last year of roots come springtime, so I think we're gonna find that both products work really well, but one of them hopefully will show to be a clear winner. Okay, so the first step is I measured out about 2 cups of water. The package says for every gallon add 4 tablespoons, and this is just the soaking period, so you know, we're looking at just maybe like, you know, a teaspoon or 2 in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that, and then we're gonna put all of our cuttings into there, into the water, and we're gonna soak for 10 minutes according to the directions here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let those soak in for 10 minutes, and the package does say for best results, pH your water to 6, which I did not do. This is just RO water. I do not know the pH, but you know, for best practices, make sure it's around 6. So I'm gonna wait for 10 minutes, and then we're gonna go ahead and actually dip them into the full Azos solution. Okay, so while those are soaking, we're gonna go ahead and make the Azos mix. And so it's 2 parts water to 1 part Azos. So this is since I'm making a fairly small batch here, this is a 1/2 cup of water, and I'm gonna add 4 tablespoons, and there's a spoon inside that I can use to measure, into the Azos mixture, and then I'm gonna mix it up. Okay, I just did the mix. I don't know if I made too much or just the right amount. I'll probably have some left over, which I'll probably like dissolve into some water and use it to water some more cuttings that I have, just to make sure I don't waste any. So I'm gonna go ahead and start dipping the cuttings and getting them in the ground, and then we'll do the Clonex. Okay, so I've actually already started to put these in, and I'm going a pattern, basically I'm doing 3 rows of 7. The pattern is X, A, C. X is Clonex, A is Azos, and C is the control. So it goes XAC, 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 and then the pattern starts on a different one here, all the way up, and a different one here. So basically it's, and I'm randomly just picking slightly different diameter ones as I go, so it should be completely controlled for the diameter of the cutting. And then also, like I said, different site conditions should all be canceled out too, so we should get a really good picture of which one roots the best. So I'm just kind of sticking them in the ground, maybe like 3-4 inches, then I'll kind of mound around them after they're all in. Okay, so all the cuttings with Azos are in the bed. I actually just made an adjustment to the trial. I'm actually doing 9 of each group, because I realized I had more cuttings, so I'm kind of just expanded the row a little bit, but everything's still even. Control, I just pulled this one out so I can show you, but the control without any rooting hormone, any Azos, and I'm gonna put those in too in the pattern that I set. Okay, the last group we're gonna put in is the Clonex group. I just opened up a brand new package of Clonex, and it was a brand new package of Azos as well. And we're gonna finish off the rows with the Clonex. So I'm just gonna dip it in the gel and place it in the holes like all the other ones. Okay, all of the plugs are in, all 27, if I did my math right, are in. Just a couple of notes, if you're doing this yourself, you don't wanna press in really hard when you're putting this in. I was thinking, oh, I wanna make them stable, so I push in, but when you remove them, this all gets more compact throughout the season, so when you remove them, it's gonna be really hard. You might rip some roots, so just wanna be gentle when you put them in. I made sure to dig deep to make sure all the perlite permeated and the soil was fluffy all the way down, so it just kind of like glided right in. That's what you want. And yeah, so this is gonna be in a shady spot. This doesn't get a lot of sun, and like I said, we still have another month and a half of rooting to go before it starts getting really cold. So hopefully they'll start rooting and they'll continue rooting in the springtime. I'm not going to reapply the Azos or anything, because I feel like that would be in a way it would be a unfair advantage to the Azos group, because I'm not reapplying the rooting gel. But you know, it's also maybe that's the point. You know, you want to like learn like if best practices of Azos versus best practices of cloning gel, which one works best, who knows. But I did the best I could. They're in the ground. We're gonna check back in probably the springtime to do a results panel. I also did, for fun, I did a couple of a running service berry variety here and some pink lemonade blueberry. Although I did those with just a cloning gel, I'll probably add the Azos in actually after. I'm not really testing those, but it's just kind of to see if this propagation bed works for those species. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll post a results video probably in the, once it's done, I'll put it in this video, a link to it in this video. But if it's not up yet, definitely subscribe if you want to see what happens with this experiment. Thanks for watching.